Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning,
Good
ma'am.
morning. Okay,
Good morning, ma'am.
good morning. So I hope you all of you have received your timetable regarding microeconomics, right? Because yesterday I sent you all the class link.
Yes, ma'am.
You have,
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. We
ma'am.
have received it.
yes,
Yes, ma'am, we
you
did.
have today you have one class right now. Tomorrow you have two consecutive classes which will start from 10 o'clock in the morning. And on Friday you have another class with me on 10 o'clock. So this is the timetable for microeconomics. Actually, what happened when there was no lockdown or like this abnormal situation? Generally, we are having 6 classes for each paper, okay, including your GE paper. But as this is not possible now, we have only 4 classes. Huh? So you can understand we have a bit pressure to complete the syllabus, and we are expecting that okay, we will have maximum of 2 or 3 months to complete that syllabus. But that time period is the class number of classes is bit small. So in that case, uh, I just want to finish my syllabus first. I'm very popular, as I said. I hope I said you already that I'm very popular of finishing my syllabus. I'm very fast in that respect. So I will finish my syllabus. Don't worry if everything is okay. Um, and don't worry about your microeconomics because it's a sort of leveling up type. Okay. So in that case, who didn't have economics, don't worry that I will not discuss anything which is very much technical in SEM 1. Okay. Some concepts, obviously, I will introduce some concepts which we need for our further SEMs, but we will explain it elaborately, right? So same one is basically for that. I can say about the microeconomics is basically for that, the leveling up. Those who had economics and those who didn't have economics. Okay, so don't worry. Let me start. Yeah? And in my last class, I have just introduced the concept of microeconomics, economics, the difference between the microeconomics and macroeconomics. So that much we discussed in our last class. So if you have any query from that portion, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will proceed. Do you have any problem with this portion? What
No,
is
ma'am.
okay?
No, ma'am. You can proceed.
Okay, fine. So let me share my screen. Otherwise, I cannot continue. Yes. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Now look, I said in my last class that okay, I actually I was just going to start that, and then I said okay, stop here. In the next class, I will start. So this is the thing of positive economics and normative economics. If someone's mic is on, if you please off it. Um, yes. Now look. Ah. Now, the positive economics and normative economics. The things are very confusing apparently, but this is actually very simple. Hmm. What is positive economics? Positive economics means something, anything in your real life, which you can, which you can see, which you can feel, which you can taste. Okay. Say I am saying that you are in economics honors class. This is a sentence. The question is whether this sentence is a positive or normative. My answer is it is positive. Why? Because I can check, right? I can check whether you are in economics honors class or not, right? But say I am saying you that you should be in mathematics honors class. Say another sentence, fine? Another sentence, you should be in, look, this is not economics. I am just trying to explain the concept in terms of sentence. Then I will go into the economics. So what I'm saying, that I'm saying that you should be in the economics honors class. The thing is, you cannot check this sentence. You cannot prove because I'm saying you should be. How can you check? Is there any data? Is there any background of my statement? Nothing. I am just thinking, so I'm saying. Okay. So this is the thing which you cannot check. There is no data behind this sentence. So this is the normative sentence. Okay. If I'm saying you are in economics honors class, then this is positive sentence. If I'm saying you should be in mathematics honors class, look, that should matters. Now, you should be. This is my view. This is my view. It may not be true. It may be true. Now, if I'm saying you should be in mathematics honors class, this is the normative sentence. This is your opinion, your view. You cannot check it. Okay. Now look what happened. Now I'm coming to the economics. I think that positive and normative one is clear to you. No? Positive is something which is stating a fact. Today is a sunny day. Okay, so this is a positive sentence. Tomorrow should be a sunny day. This is a normative sentence because we don't know what will happen tomorrow. We are not sure. So that is the thing. This is my opinion. I'm saying my opinion. Okay, if today is a sunny day, so tomorrow should be a sunny day. So this is the normative sentence. It ought to be a sunny day. Normative sentence. Now, say I'm saying that Indian economy is under Great Depression. Okay, this is something related with economics. Again, as another sentence, but it is something related with economics. Indian economy is under Great Depression. Tell me whether this is a positive or a normative one.
Normative.
Positive.
Positive.
Yes, it is
Positive.
positive.
It's positive.
Positive.
It is positive.
Positive.
It is positive. Very good. It is positive because you can check. You can check. How? There are so many data to help you. There are so many data which you can use. For example, the unemployment rate. For example, the per capita income. For example, the health status. For example, the export-import data. There are a lot of data. So just take any of them and check whether it is under Great Depression or not. So this is a positive one. But if I'm saying that after 1 year, Indian economy should be a developed one. Positive or normative?
Normative.
Because this is my view. I am thinking, I am very much optimistic. So I am thinking that after 1 year, it will be a developed country. It will be, it can beat America like that. So this is my view. You cannot prove it. There is no such proof. My opinion, how can you check it? So there is no way to check my opinion. Okay, so this is the normative economics. Fine. So this is all about the positive and normative. So positive, now check, now look at my PPT, the slide. Here it is. So many sounds are coming. Positive economics means it is dealing with the facts which can be checked. And normative economics means it's a perspective of the economy which cannot be checked. Someone is saying that after 1 year, Indian economy should go to more depressed situation. Again, this is his or her view. You cannot check it. So this is the normative one. Now, this is just the definition of positive economics and normative economics. Now I am coming to your most interesting section, that is the end SEM exam. SEM end exam. So what will, which type of question may come from this area? Actually, if you go through last 2 or 3 years question paper, you can check, you can find that a sentence is given. And then the question is it a positive economics? Explain. Is it a normative economics? Explain. Which type of economics it is? Explain. You get my point? So these type of questions are coming from this positive economics and normative economics section. So there is no such hard and fast theory formula for that. You have to understand the concept. Once you understand, you can find a lot of example from any of the newspaper article, from any of the chapter of your textbook, where there are a lot of positive economics and normative economics type of sentence. Okay, so questions are like that. One sentence will be given. If the question will come, the question is like that. This one sentence is given, and then the question is, which type of sentence is it? Which type of sentence it is? Positive or normative? Explain. So
Sorry
first
to
of
interrupt,
all,
ma'am. I have a question.
ask.
Ma'am, if someone analyzes the data of the past and predicts what will happen in the future, like forecasting, so will it fall under positive or normative?
No, actually, yes, this is a very good question. If this type of thing is there, then obviously this is not, this is positive. If you can back your view, then this is positive.
Okay, ma'am.
Forecasting is there, prediction is there, so many softwares are there today. So if you
Yes.
can back your what you are saying, that okay, I am saying this because the data is telling me this, then it's okay, then it's positive. But in
Okay,
the
ma'am.
morning, you are just saying that okay, it should be this, it should be like this, it ought to be this. So these are only your view. This is the
Okay,
norm.
ma'am.
So if this type, what I am saying, if this type of question is coming, first of all, you have to write your conclusion. What you are thinking, which type of sentence or which type of economics it is. You have to write it. So it is positive economics. Then you have to write what is positive economics. That means the definition. And then you have to write why you are considering that given sentence as a positive economics. That much is required for a good score. Is that okay? So if this type of question is coming, first of all, you have to write your conclusion. Then you have to define positive or normative, whatever it is. And then you have to explain why this particular sentence is under the category of positive or normative. Okay, so only 3 to 4 lines. And for the explanation part, don't go for half page or 1 page. Okay, it's only 2 or 3. To the point answer is very much important for this subject. This is not history, this is not literature. So only thing which is required is whether you can understand the thing or not. Whether you can understand the subject topic or not. That much is needed. So your logic should be very clear. Your logic should be very clear. It may be 1 sentence, someone may need 10 sentences, nothing. This is not a matter. You have to explain your logic clearly. But try to be to the point. Okay, write the answer precisely. But it should be clear. Okay, so this is all about the positive. Okay, this is something I have just copied from the website, the normal website. It's there. Positive means something related with it is, it was, it will be like this. And normative means it ought to be, it should be like this. It can be proved. Normative cannot be proved. It is connected with the cause and effect. It is connected with a recommendation like this. Okay. So these are there. So this is the first section of unit 1. I will always follow your syllabus because again I have to finish the syllabus given the time constraint. So this is all about the first subsection of unit 1. I am going to the second subsection, that is 1.2 of your syllabus. That is the 10 principles of economics. Before that,
Ma'am.
if you have any, yes.
Ma'am, as he told that if he can go to the past and take some data and predict our future outcomes, ma'am, that will be a positive statement.
Yes.
Ma'am, as you earlier you have given example that today is a sunny morning, and from that data you predicted that tomorrow will be a sunny morning. Ma'am, you told that
Mhm.
that was normative. Ma'am, how that is normative and this was positive? Ma'am,
No, no, no. Actually, what happened? No, actually, what happened? What I am saying, what I actually trying to say that if there is no such formula, na, that today is a sunny morning implies tomorrow will be a sunny morning. This is my view.
okay,
But what he is saying, he is actually trying to prove it. There are some concrete formula. He will
hmm,
use that formula and he will put the previous data and get the forecasting results. So there
oh,
is something scientific. Uh, what can I say? There is some scientific logic behind his way of thinking. But I am not
okay,
thinking logically. Actually, there is no such logic, no such scientific. Today is sunny. Okay, so tomorrow is a sunny day.
okay,
It's like that. So there
okay,
should
ma'am,
be some concrete base.
okay, yes.
Any other question? Okay. Now look, the 10 principles of economics. For this, I am referring your Pindai. Sorry, your book, that is Matthew. Okay. In Matthew, I hope it's in chapter 1. Let me just check. Yes. It's in chapter 1. The name of the chapter is 10 principles of economics, and I will follow Mankiw for this section. So once you have the book, you can go through it. Okay. So 10 principles of economics. Because why we need these 10 principles? Actually, these 10 principles are the 10 pillars. We should say these are the pillars. Okay. They will just give you one overview of what economics will discuss. And each of these principles we will discuss separately and elaborately in say in SEM 3, in SEM 4, like this. Okay, for rest of our SEMs, we will discuss all those principles elaborately. So this is just an overview, and these are the pillars. Overview is not something which you take it casually. It's not like that. These are some pillars, so we first know the name or the nature of the pillar. After doing that, we will discuss elaborately the material behind the pillar, the structure, the architecture behind the pillar. Everything we will discuss in detail. So this section is just an overview that what economics will deal. Okay. This is actually divided in 3 subsections. The first subsection is the how people make decisions. Look, everything is making this. Everyone is making decision in real life. From the very first hour of our every day, we are making decision. What to do, what not to do, how to spend the time, how to spend the money, how to talk, how how to go. Everywhere we are making decision. Na? As we are a rational individual, we are making decision. So that thing, the same thing, we will discuss under the economics. So with some economics logic, with some logical explanation, we will try to explain how people make decisions. People are making decisions, but how, that is our concern. That is not the concern of the rational people. They have just taken the decision. So this is the first subheading. Under this subheading, we have 4 or 5 principles. So the first principle is people face trade-off. Look, this is very much, this is actually very common to our real life. People face trade-off. We are facing trade-off. For example, now I am sitting here in front of my laptop. I'm taking your class. That time I can read a storybook, right? That time I can um, I can do some household work. That time I can write a paper for a journal. So same time I can spend for these purposes. But I'm leaving all those. Now I am sitting in front of the laptop and taking same one microeconomics class. So this is the trade-off I am doing. I am leaving this and I am taking this. So in each and every decision, we are facing this trade-off. For example, consider the individual level. As I am saying, I am an individual. So my decision is related with this trade-off. You are sitting in front of your mobile phone or in front of your laptop, desktop. Why? Because you want to know something about the microeconomics. So that time you can spend for some other purposes. You can just sleep. You can just go for a walk. You can just make a gossip. You can just check your chat box. You can do a lot of things. But these are the things you can do. But you are leaving all those and sitting in front of your smartphone or laptop, right? So this is another trade-off you are also making at the individual level. You are doing, I am doing. So these are all the trade-off we are making at the individual level, right? Now, in a household, there are 3, 4, 5, or 10 individuals. So how household is making that trade-off? Generally, in the household, the money is coming once in a month. This is the salary of one individual, two individuals, three individuals, whatever. So this is the salary which is generally, okay, this is generally I'm saying, the money, that is the income, is coming in a single day. And you have to spend that money for the whole month. You have to spend the money for the food. You have to spend the money for clothing, for education, for health, for recreation, for charity. So these are the options you can spend your money. So of these options, you have to choose which one I should do. The household is taking, actually the head of the household, he or she is taking the decision on how to spend the money. Okay, so that household is also making the trade-off. Now I'm coming to the society. Society is actually the combination of households. There are 100, 1,000, 5,000 number of households in a society, in an area. So, or in the economy, lot of households are there. So how the economy is making this trade-off? There are some examples in your book. Okay, before going to those examples, let me ask you: is that okay? That trade-off portion for the individual and the household levels, these are okay to you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Now I am coming. Okay, fine. Now I am coming to the society. That is the economy's perspective. There are two examples in your book. One is an trade-off between the guns and butter, and another is a trade-off between efficiency and equity. I will explain one by one. First, gun and butter. What is gun? Gun doesn't mean that gun you have to fire like this. So this is not the gun. This is gun. Gun is actually the symbol. Gun means your defense, the defense of the economy. And butter means consumable goods, a food item, some goods which the people are consuming. Okay, so these are the two things. Actually, what is happening to the economy? Economy has limited resource. Resource means the labor force, capital, infrastructure, production units. These are something limited. So with that limited resource, he has to make a trade-off between the defense and the consumption. Once he wants to go for defense, that means if the economy is thinking that defense should be very strong, then he is spending a lot of money or resource for the defense purpose. Okay, he is installing, for example, India. If you consider India is purchasing a lot of MiG and Sukhoi from the, I don't know, it's from the Russia maybe. So anyway, so they are purchasing so many things for defense from the rest of the world. Okay, some economy may think that my defense should be strong, so I should spend a lot of money for the defense. So what he is sacrificing actually? As his income or as his resource is limited, he is sacrificing his consumption side. On the other hand, if the economy is thinking I should improve my consumption market, then he will spend a lot of money or a lot of resources for the production of sophisticated consumable goods, a variety of consumable goods. So the defense is weak. So there is a trade-off. Whether you will spend your given resource for the defense or for the improvement of the standard of living of your people. So if you just go through basically the African countries, or not the African countries, the Syria. So these countries are actually now in a great problem. So they have to spend a lot of money for their defense. And what happens? Some pictures are coming in the newspaper, on the news channel. You can see their consumption side is there is nothing. Okay, there is nothing. There is no food. There is no health infrastructure. Nothing is there. If one rupee is in their hand, one unit of money, if they have 1 unit of money, they have to spend it for their defense. So what happened? Their people are in a severe condition. They're just trying to leave their country. So this is the trade-off the economy may face, whether you will spend your resource for the defense or to improve the standard of living of your people. This is first one. And the second one is not related with the first one. The second one is the efficiency and equity. Efficiency and the equity. What is efficiency? Can you tell me what is efficiency? Any idea?
Using something up to its full potential.
Yes. It's actually the productivity. Okay. It's actually the productivity. Once you are more productive in your workspace, that means you are very much efficient. And what is equity? Equity is a bit critical word, but in general, we can say equity means the equitable distribution of the outcome. Okay. So look, what the economy is doing, if you just consider Indian economy, if you go through the income tax slabs, if the people is earning a certain income, say it's a 10, no, not a 10, it's actually the 2 or 3 lakhs per year, you don't have to pay tax. If your income is less than 10 lakh, you have to pay 10%. If your income is more than 10%, 10 lakh per year, then you have to give tax of 20%. And if more, then it's 30%. So what is happening? This is called the progressive tax structure. But what is happening? Look, the person who is earning more is giving proportionately more tax, right? If your income is say 15 lakhs per year, then you have to pay 20% tax, for example. And if your income is 5 lakh, then you have to spend 10%. You have to give 10% of your income as a tax. Okay, this is the structure, tax structure of India. Okay. Now look at this situation from some different angle. Why the person is earning 20 lakhs per year? Why? Can you tell me why the person's income is 20 lakhs per year? Why? Why not 2 lakh? Why 20?
Because the person is more consumption level is high.
Yes, he is more efficient. That's why. Very simple. Generally, he is more efficient. He is more productive. That's why. So he has some skill. He or she may have some skill. He is using that skill. He is more productive. That's why his income level is very high. So it's his effort for which he is earning. But once that person earns, he has to pay a lot of money relatively more money as a tax. Okay, so that may discourage the person to work, right? That may discourage that. Why should I earn a lot? I have to pay a lot of money as a tax. Why should I? So that is something discouraging. Now you can ask me then, if you is what is the objective of the tax structure? Is it to discourage the person? No. Actually, after getting the money from those efficient person, that money is distributed among the poor person. Okay, because Indian economy is actually the welfare economy. So he is trying to distribute the outcome equally. That is equity. Equity is more important here. So that the people can get more or less same amount of money. So that is why they are taking a lot of money from the efficient person and they are distributing as a social welfare for the rest of the people who cannot earn. Okay, so this is, look, so what is happening as the economy is going through the equity, as the objective of the economy is to improve the equity, the economy is sacrificing efficiency, right? Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So this is the thing. You are again making the trade-off between the efficiency and equity. Now look at any capitalist economy. They are not interested about that equitable distribution of resources. They are not interested. They are only interested about to increase its total output, to increase its GDP. So what they are doing? They are just encouraging the people who can produce. They are encouraging the people who are efficient so that they will produce a lot. Total income will be more for the economy, and that's all. So what they are doing? They are sacrificing equity for the efficiency. But any of the welfare economies in the world, they are sacrificing efficiency for equity. So you cannot achieve both. You cannot achieve both. You have to sacrifice either of these two. So this is the trade-off economy is facing. Okay. So
Ma'am, can you explain this equity part once more?
okay, I am saying that what is equity? Equity means the economy is trying to distribute the final product equally. That means the person who cannot earn, who is not so productive. There are a lot of reasons behind that. He may not have the scope to learn. He may be physically weak. He may have some household problem. Okay, there are a lot of reasons behind the less productivity of the people. But finally, there is a section in the economy who are less productive, who cannot earn, who cannot survive. Okay, who cannot survive in the economy. That much of this is also there in the Indian economy. There are a lot of people who are below the poverty line. Okay, so they cannot survive. So how economy, actually Indian government is trying to help them. But how to help? You need money. And how to get the money? You have to take tax from the person who are earning. So if you are earn more, you have to pay more. And government is collecting all those tax revenue and they are distributing this tax revenue among those people, basically to those people who cannot earn the money to survive. These are the social welfare. You know, the PDS is there, public distribution system. Nowadays, people are getting rice and wheat as a free. Okay, so these are there. There are BPL categories who are getting electricity at the subsidized rate. They are getting LPG gas at subsidized rate. So how the government is giving the subsidy? Government is taking money from the person who are more productive. They are giving the tax. Not only income tax, actually, there are a lot of sources of the tax revenue. There are export tax, import tax. So these are all there. But income tax, I'm just explaining in terms of income tax because I'm trying to explain the concept of trade-off. So efficiency and equity is like this. You are trying to distribute your resources equitably. Okay, so that there will be no person without food. There will be no person without shelter. There will be no person without clothing. So this is the motto of the welfare economics. Now is it okay? That equity?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Any other question?
Ma'am.
Yes.
So trade-off is the decision that people make when they have a number of options.
Yes. Yes. Obviously. Obviously.
Okay, ma'am.
When you are going to the job market after 5 or
Okay,
6
ma'am.
years, all of you will go for the job market, right? So in the job market, you may go for, there are a lot of options to you. You may go for higher studies, that means PhD. So there you may get some stipend. You may go for banking service, you may go for railway service, you may go for management service. So there are a lot of options. Of these options, you have to choose one. So there comes the trade-off. Okay. Everywhere we are having a lot of options. Actually, we are saying that when we are honest,
Okay, ma'am.
I used to say that also, that I don't have any option. But actually, we have options. We have to choose. We have to choose. The options may not be very glorious for us, very impressive for us, but options are there. Okay. So I hope principle 1 is clear. So let me go to principle 2. Principle 2. Now, it is actually the continuation of principle 1. Principle 1 was saying that people is facing trade-off. Principle 2 is saying the cost of something is what you give off to get it. Okay, this is something very confusing. Read this heading carefully. The cost of something is what you give off to get it. For example, when you are purchasing a commodity, say you are going to purchase a pen. The price of the pen is 20 rupees. Okay. So what you are giving, 20 rupees, and what you are getting, the pen. So what you give up, 20 rupees. So what is the cost of the pen? 20 rupees. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What you give up to get it. You want to get the pen, so you are paying 20 rupees. So you
Yes,
give up
ma'am.
20 rupees, you are getting that pen. So this is the cost. Very simple. We will explain the same thing in terms of economics, a new concept. The concept is the opportunity cost. Okay, this is the new concept which is very much related with your trade-off. What is the opportunity cost? By definition, opportunity cost is the next best option which you sacrifice to get it. This is the definition. The best option you sacrifice to get it. Now look, say I'm giving you those options. Don't worry. You are here now. It's what's the time? Yes, it's 11:55. You are here in the class. The class is okay, going to get over anyway. So it's around 12 o'clock, and you are sitting in front of your laptop. You may be very much bored. You are not interested to sit here, but you have to sit. So what are the other options in front of you? You may just sleep. I'm giving you the options. Huh? Listen. You may sleep. You may watch a movie in Netflix. You may gossip. You may play football or cricket. What are the? Is there any other options? I'm asking you. Is there any other option in front of you other than all those four?
We can
Okay.
scroll social media.
No, ma'am, it is sufficient.
Yes. You can just go through the Instagram or Facebook like this. Yes. So these are 5. Huh?
Lunch
Okay, I'm happy with this 5. Agar don't increase the list. It will be confusing. Now tell me, if I am telling you just now that okay, stop the class, I'm leaving the class, then what you will do?
I want to sleep, ma'am.
Sleeping is the opportunity cost of economics class to her. Okay, because this is the next best alternative she is sacrificing. Hmm. If there is no class, she will sleep. Any other option for you?
No, ma'am, it is sufficient.
Everyone is going to sleep at 12 o'clock. Okay. Okay, fine. So, as the class is very much sleepy, so this is the opportunity cost of this class. Okay, that is the conclusion. Now, it may vary. She will sleep doesn't mean everyone will sleep. You may go for all other 4 options. You may choose any of those 4 options. So, that option is the opportunity cost of this class to you. Is that okay? It may vary. Do you get my point?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So this
Yes, ma'am.
is the I'm just trying to explain the opportunity cost. This is the opportunity cost. In each and every sector, you will get this. In each and every area, in each and every decision. So in principle one, that was the trade-off, na? So the name of the trade-off is the opportunity cost. Not all. The next best alternative you have sacrificed. The next best alternative. Actually, when I was taking this class in our college, I was giving the options that you may go for, you may go to Star Theatre, you may go to Hathi Bagan, you may go to Money Square. So or you may just go to the in front of metro station and you may gossip. So what are those options? So generally they are choosing that Star Theatre option. Anyway, you are choosing that sleeping option. So this is the opportunity cost of my class. This is principle 2. Now, I'm going to principle. Is that okay? Principle 2? Now, regarding
Yes,
the
ma'am.
opportunity cost, yes. Yes. Let me just tell me one thing. One thing. Generally, the question is coming from the opportunity cost is like this. One event is given to you. Just as I said, the class. You are in the class. What is the opportunity cost of this class? Explain. That type of question is generally coming. One question is what is opportunity cost? This is just the definitional sort of question. In case of application, this type of questions are coming. One event is given and next the question is what is the opportunity cost? Now don't confuse. Opportunity cost to you may vary from your friends. As I said, opportunity cost that girl is saying is sleeping. But there may be some other who is saying, no, it's not sleeping. I may go for the social media. So this is the opportunity cost for him. So whatever opportunity cost you are thinking, you have to explain it logically. That is needed. Okay. So this is principle 2. Now,
Ma'am, one question.
yes.
Ma'am, so if we are given a situation, say for example, we are sitting in this class, so the trade-off options for this class can be multiple,
Yes.
but
Yes.
the opportunity cost is to be single.
Yes. Well, yes. That is the thing. This is the next
Okay,
best, the
ma'am.
single one, not all.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, the opportunity.
Ma'am, is trade-off the options that we give up or the decision that we make?
Yes, that is the decision you are making. Lot of options are there. So of this, you are choosing one. So this program is, I can say this program or that process is called the trade-off. Okay, that process is called the trade-off. But out of all those opportunities, what is the next best opportunity is your opportunity cost. Out of all those options, what is your next best option is the opportunity cost of the current events. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, so the process of making a decision is the trade-off, and the next opportunity which we are giving up is the opportunity cost.
Exactly. Trade-off is the process.
Okay, ma'am.
Trade-off is a
Okay, ma'am.
process where you have a lot of options. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let me start principle 3. I don't know whether I can finish it or not. Let me try. It's principle 3. Rational people think at the margin. Rational, actually we are doing this, but we are not thinking in terms of economics. But from today, we will think, hopefully. Rational people think at the margin. For example, say I'm saying you, I'm just informing you that tomorrow I will take a class test. Okay, say. Don't panic, I will not tell you. But anyway, this is an example. That tomorrow there will be a class test. Then what you will do? You have to think that, okay, I have only, in my hand, I have only 8 hours. So what to do with that 8 hours? For each hour, for the first hour, I will study unit 1. Then for the second hour, I will study unit 2. In the third hour, I will write some answers. In the fourth hour, I will again revise. So this is how you are thinking now. You will not think that for the 8 hours, what I will do. You will just divide it. You will just divide the total time and think per unit what you will be doing. Okay, so this is what people are thinking. There is a beautiful example in your book of airline. In the airline, this is an example. This is actually the abnormal situation. It's not a real life situation. That one plane is going to fly from the airport. Okay, at that time, one passenger came and he is saying that I don't have the money to purchase the ticket. So the price of the ticket is 2,000. Okay, the person is saying I have to go, but I don't have the money to purchase the ticket. You have one seat blank. There is no passenger in your airline. So I want to fly. And I have only 500 rupees in my pocket. That much I can give to you. You get the situation? The price of the ticket is 2,000. The flight is going to fly. The passenger reached. He is saying, I cannot give 2,000. I can give only 500, but I have to go. And you have one seat vacant in your flight. Okay, in your plane. The question is, what should be the decision of the company? Do you get the problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
The price of the ticket is 2,000. The passenger has only 500. There is one seat vacant in the aeroplane, and the flight is just going to fly. What will be the decision of the company? Say it may be Indigo, it may be Jet, whoever. So what will be the decision?
The company must accept the.
Ma'am, they will let him in.
Why?
And because
because the marginal benefit is then again greater than marginal
but the company
cost.
will at least get 300 rupees.
Yes. Actually, what happened? Look, Actually, what happened? The price of the ticket is 2000. Why? Because this is the average cost. I can say this is the average cost. Okay, and some part of the profit is also there. Average cost. Average cost is the total cost of the flight divided by the total what can I say? Total number of people in that flight. Okay, so this is the average cost. Say the average cost is including the profit. The average cost is around 2000. So the price of the ticket is 2000. Okay. Now, if the company is saying that okay, I will not allow you, then he will fly with that vacant seat, right? So that 2000 is the loss. But once he allows the person to enter in the flight for the boarding, then he will get 500 rupees. Okay, but obviously that 500 rupees is less than his average cost. That 500 rupees is not his average cost, it's something less. But what is the extra cost he has to do for that person? What is the extra? He is getting 500 extra from that person. But this is the benefit he is getting from that individual, that 500 rupees. This is the money he is getting. I can say this is the benefit the company is getting from the person. But in return, what the company has to give to that person? Extra? Nothing extra. Maybe a glass of water, maybe a can of Coke, that much, nothing more. All other costs are already there. You have to fly because all passengers are waiting. So you have to fly. All costs you have to spend. What is the extra cost? Extra cost is maybe a glass of water, maybe a glass of coffee, maybe a can of Coke, that much. In exchange of that, what you are getting? 500 rupees from that person. So what you are getting? 500 rupees. What you are giving? Close to zero. The cost is close to zero, near to zero. Okay. So now you are thinking at the margin, right? What I am getting, what I am giving to that single person. So I am thinking at the margin. And what is the result? I am getting more. I am giving less. So it is better to accept the person to board, accept the person to fly. Okay? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You can say, okay, then it's a very good one, ma'am. You inform us a very good thing. So in the last moment, we will go to the Damdam airport and say, I don't have money, but I want to fly, and they will allow me. No. There are so many other reasons behind the decision. We are not considering all those decisions. There are so many policies. Okay. So we are not considering all those strategic policies. Because once they will allow, it will be proved that, okay, that is the cost to fly. So they are charging one, because people are not understanding in this way. They are thinking, okay, so 500 is the cost, but they are charging 2000. So they will just make some unrest. So this is some strategic decisions, the management decisions. We are not considering all those. Okay. We are a layman, so we are just thinking in this way. So what people should do? People are thinking at the margin. What is the marginal benefit I am getting, and what is the marginal cost I am incurring? If marginal benefit is more, I should accept the deal. If marginal cost is more, I should not accept the deal. Okay. Any query with that airline example? This is in your ManQ. The numbers
No,
may
ma'am.
vary.
Ma'am,
Hmm?
ma'am, here will we not consider the loss that the company makes of 1500 rupees or what?
No, this is not the loss actually. This is not the loss in that respect. This is the actually, if you will not allow the person You have to fly now. You have to fly because there are say 99 passengers already in your flight. So you have to fly. So the petrol cost is there,
Yes, ma'am.
the wage to the pilot, the wage to the co-pilot, the salary for the crew members, all these are there. You have to spend. You have to spend with these vacant seats. But if you allow that person, you will earn at least 500. Otherwise, your loss is 2,000. But if you allow that person, your loss is reduced by 500. So it is now
Yes, ma'am.
1500. Okay, your loss is 1500. Yes, you are reducing your loss. You are not going for profit in that case. But what is the cost for that person? Nothing. So 500 is actually your income. So marginal benefit is more than your marginal cost. You are thinking in this way. And
So, ma'am,
Okay,
previously
ma'am.
our loss is 2000 and now our loss is 1500. So there is a
yes, you
benefit.
are reducing your loss. Actually, you are
Yes.
reducing your loss. You are not going for profit. You cannot get your
Okay,
profit.
ma'am.
But how can you do that? You are going to that marginal analysis. This is how you are reducing your loss. You are going for that marginal analysis, marginal cost and marginal benefit. This is how you are reducing your loss. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. The class is going to get over. I have another class right now, so I have to stop here. I have two more things to say under Principle 3. I will explain it in the next class. Tomorrow we have class. Tomorrow we have 2 classes now. So it's a lot. So there we will discuss the remaining